Hello everyone and welcome to the guide for Darkheart Thicket. Now again, I won't be going over any trash mobs in this guide. Basically, to cover the trash mobs in this dungeon, just don't stand in any vortexes on the ground. Healing and dispelling is a priority. So the first boss, pretty simple. He will spawn random patches of vines on the ground. Do not stand on them. And you see here he did a leap. Now when he does a leap on someone, it'll hit that one person. It can also hit the tank. If it does, that person needs to be healed back up to above 90% to get rid of that bleed. And then you saw there he does also knock the tank back and charge forward. Now what this means is the DPS needs to stand to his sides or behind him. You see there a patch of vines on the ground. Do not stand in that. When he knocks back the tank, he's going to charge him, do good damage to him. The tank needs to face him away from the group, not stand in any of the vines. Healers need to heal anyone with the bleed above 90%, and DPS just needs to stand at his sides and not get hit by anything. Don't stand in any pools of vines. This is the world quest boss. He's pretty simple. All he does is periodically he'll summon 3 plagued areas, 3 clouds of venom that you need to avoid. He does spawn in a small little cave, so if you do need to move him out of there, feel free to. Just make sure that everybody's aware of where you're moving the boss. You'll see here that eventually the cave becomes extremely polluted, and I do need to move him completely out of the cave. Those are the big clouds of poison. Make sure you don't stand in them. You see at this point the cave becomes completely polluted, requiring me to move him completely out. He's almost down. This next boss does a couple of things. He does a big giant AoE knockback ability. You just have to heal through it. He also does something that spawns these claws that come up from the ground that will grasp people. Now they do take 3 seconds to arm, so if you're DPS, whether ranged, melee, or healer, please avoid these at all costs. Now a job that tanks have is when Nightmare Breath is about to be cast, make sure you pop a cooldown, or ignore pain, or shield block. You pop some sort of mitigation ability. The only other thing to note with this boss is he will pick up the tank every now and then and grasp him. When he does do crushing grip, as a tank you should pop some sort of cooldown. Also, healers should spam heal the tank during that time. Next boss, you need to try to position him in a certain way, because the biggest thing he does is flap his wings and start knocking everyone back. Now you see here some whelplings. All of the eggs in this area can hatch. So if your party isn't watching themselves, with this downdraft they can get pushed into some egg. So you see here, there's a shaman in the back. He runs into some whelplings. Now it's my job as a tank to pick them up and to make sure that the party does not wipe. The only other things to note is that he will make rocks fall in a certain area. You see here there are rocks falling. Do not stand in that. And as the tank, you should be facing the boss away from the party. Now the boss will do a Breath of Corruption every now and then. When he does do the Breath of Corruption, as a tank, you can sidestep and avoid all the damage, and you do definitely want to do this. Every time the breath hits on you, it actually leaves a debuff on you that reduces your armor by 10% per stack. So you see here, I stood in it, I have 3 stacks. That is minus 30% armor for me, which is huge. And here we see a dodge, just sidestep. Now on to the final boss. There's nothing too crazy about this final boss, there's a lot of dodging mechanics. He will cast a debuff on someone. It makes the vines, if you remember from the first boss, vines spawn underneath that person. If someone walks inside of that AoE, they will take a lot of damage. So that person does definitely not want to happen. If you have a melee heavy group, they need to be very aware of this. If you see here, the debuff has been casted on me, and you see all these vines and crackling underneath me, no one should be standing inside of that. So if you do have melee heavy, you will run into some issues, but as long as everyone is aware, they can avoid it. Now the only other thing is he spawns these giant vortexes on the ground. Obviously don't stand in fire, that goes without saying, so try to avoid all damage. Besides that, he does do a move called Feed on the Weak, where he does do high amounts of damage to someone in the party. If you are a healer, make sure you know who he is targeting, because you will need to overheal that person. Besides that, there's not much else to this dungeon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.